Okay, might be live. What's going on, guys? Anybody here yet? I don't know. We're just gonna warm up this live stream here with some views of the tank. I hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. This is kind of an impromptu live stream. We're going to be taking the webcam around and just showing you some of the tanks and answering some questions. And we're just going to warm up for a couple minutes here and just see which clip works better on the webcam, because this tank is looking PIMP. If you have any questions right now, we do have a moderator who's going to be looking at your questions and picking out some of the best ones. Here I'm going from an orange filter to a yellow filter. Let's see how that looks. That might be a little less greeny. What do you guys think? Better with the orange filter? I want to thank everybody for tuning in so far. We got Roshan, David, Uptown, PPM, Simon, Guy Host, Gabe's Reef, Adam Moore. Ooh, so we got one good, easy question. What is the tallest blue stag in the tank right now? In this tank, that is the immortal torts. And torts are kind of like semi-stags. And just to the left of that, you'll see the orange filter looks way better. Just left of that is the hardline hoaxami. Very nice. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm just warming up, getting a little drink. But we're, if you guys holla or represent, if you guys watch or listen to Reef Therapy, it's going to be kind of a one-man show tonight. Just talking a little bit about our journey. Let me know if the audio's coming okay. I literally just bought some wireless headphones, and I don't feel like sitting right in front of the computer, but I'll come up and wave from behind the tank. Windsor, do you have headphones you can hear? All right, we're going to have some audio checking. There we go. Get your questions in. We have some questions earlier from just our other social media platforms. What's going on, guys? There we go. Before you ask, this is a 5-foot Red Sea peninsula. I think it's just about 3 years old. I'm running some after optics and almost everything Red Sea on this tank. Dayton says it sounds bad. Should I clean things up a little bit? Alan Brown, yes, thoughts on the vibrant controversy. Not really my jam. Not really my kind of stuff to use algicides in a reef tank. I think I'm just going to let someone else dissect that topic. Nelson Lorero, how's the mangrove tank doing? It's doing amazing. Oh, one thing that's a little neat about the mangrove tank is it's become kind of a gallery where the trees are growing really, really well, but the corals in front of them are just kind of cycling through. Because we had an assortment of corals and they kind of outgrew that. And then currently right now I'm doing an assortment of soft corals, and I put a pair of Brazilian flameback angelfish in there, and they decided that they were going to be little coral picking machines, like literally picking machines. Oh my goodness. Here's a good question from John Krause. What are your favorite trends in the hobby? Least favorite. My total favorite is the automatic filter roll. And I can give you a sneak peek of that just because I really love automatic filter rolls. I actually first kind of caught up onto them in 2010, and I've been just watching the progress or lack thereof for a really long time. And at Reef Stock a week ago, I got my hands on probably the first kind of public Red Sea reef mat. So you saw me advancing it just now because it's not supported in the app yet, but it is incredible. Oh, wait, you didn't see that. Sorry. Let me adjust the view. That should be pretty easy because it's just right down here. Give it a second. And there you go. Should be able to see the reef mat there running on this tank. Oh, come on. I lowered it way more than that. All right, so I'm going to tilt it down so you can see the reef mat, and then I'll tilt it back up to the tank. I want to thank everybody who's participated in the 100,000, getting up here to 100,000 subscribers. I know there's a lot of people who do YouTube, like kind of like playing the game as far as like getting the most views, getting the most subscribers, but I think you can tell from our content that we were never really focused on trying to hit the biggest numbers, just trying to make some good quality content. So my favorite trends in the aquarium hobby, you know what? If you really like roll back the clock, the fact that we have trends at all in the aquarium hobby in itself is an awesome trend, right? Imagine the hobby's so small that we don't even have trends. But the fact that we can even nitpick about trends, that's pretty cool. You know, I actually love how LED lighting it's just gotten so good and so versatile that I'm running a reef tank right now with a $50 Amazon light. It's just barely enough, but it's pretty cool. All right, let me check my phone for some questions. All right, here's a good question. Salt Creek TV asks, what is currently going on in the reef studio that brings you the most joy and satisfaction? Currently, I'm extremely excited that Reef Stock is behind us. We're just done with Reef Stock. And, you know, we prepared a lot for it in terms of getting all the tanks cleaned. And so right now, we're just kind of catching our breath and looking around at some, like, incredibly clean aquariums with very happy, healthy corals. And just kind of getting our gears together for the future. All right, let me check some of my curated questions real quick. Thanks, everybody, for joining in for the 100,000 subs. Before I get into the questions, I just want to tell like a 5-10 minute story. It's kind of like the journey. So I don't know how old most of you guys are, but you know, we're probably comparable in age. So I'm 40 years old, and I joined YouTube in college. And at the time, YouTube was like 1 year old. It was brand new, and I started using YouTube just as a place to upload videos to share on other platforms, right? You guys know YouTube is just a place for videos, not like a destination. And I did that for like, 8-9 years. And, you know, we posted a lot of videos, usually of tanks. I wasn't usually in front of the camera. But I do have to give a lot of credit to Victor from Worldwide Corals. I always knew that video was going to be the next kind of medium for us, you know, because we've been blogging for so many years, and I knew video was on the horizon. But Victor from Worldwide, he kind of saw that trend coming maybe before I did, and he pushed me for like a year or two, and he got together a cabal of sponsors to sponsor the channel. So, you know, we wouldn't be here creating the kind of videos that we currently create if it wasn't for Brightwell Aquatics, Ecotech Marine, and Worldwide Corals. Like, you've watched enough YouTube videos to know that people are always just begging you for subs and likes, and yeah, don't forget to hit that like button on the stream. We're gonna bounce around from tank to tank a little bit, but you watch plenty of content, and they're just begging you for likes, and they're begging you for subs, and commenting, and because we were able to get the YouTube side of the channel sponsored ahead of time, we were really able to focus on just bringing you quality content, not just pouring ourselves out to the topics and the stories that would get the most engagement, right? So I always made videos that I really loved, and the last 3 years we've been building up a studio to do that really, really dedicatedly. But you guys really love the content. If you ever get a chance to face to face with Ecotech Marine or Brightwell or Worldwide, they really just gave us a lot of breathing room to be creative, to be sponsored ahead of making the content. So we didn't have to really rely on YouTube ad revenue to do that kind of stuff. So someone asked, Sanjay video update even this year. I'll tell you what, man, the best videos that we've done, I want to redo them all. Not just redo them, but like I talked to Jason Fox this week. I think I saw Sanjay a week ago, and yeah, for sure, like I want to do good updates on everything. Yusef says, you started YouTube back when it was a place to just load your crazy videos. Yeah, that's correct. All right, let me take a look at some Fish No Chips says, send Jake back to Solomon Islands to see how Simon's Reef is getting on. Man, I wish. I really wish. I can't wait to go diving. Who else we got up in here? Snow Onyx Clowns, breeding series with a true perculus. I'm not against it, especially when it comes to true perculas. The Ocellaris and percula clownfish don't have like some of the least captive breeding artifacts, and so some F1 wild true perculas, that would be pretty cool. Discus all day, reef all night. Okay, all right. I got some discus. Right now. I need to get some more. He asked to come on his podcast. That's definitely a possibility. I'll have to talk to my, what do they call them? Administrative assistant. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're just doing a real casual AMA live stream. I'm letting my executive administrative assistant dole me the questions. Let's see. Make Jake dance. So you guys don't know, but like when I started YouTube, it wasn't even so much a place to put up videos as much as it was a place to pair up videos with like music that I like at the time. And I used completely copyrighted music for like, I don't know, for 7, 8, 9 years, which is why I never monetized the channel, which is why I didn't, go crazy. So we do a lot of dancing, as soon as like the work we have to do from 9 to 5 gets done, then from like 5 to 7 to 8 to 9, that's when we're actually doing the work we want to do on the tanks, like curating the corals, really observing the fish. Blue Marine Life says, I will offer you to visit us in my new store in World Cup Qatar 2022. Yeah, sure. Slip into those DMs, let us know a little bit more about that. I've actually been to Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and it's just a really unique area. Nelson Loureiro is totally right that one of the best and favorite was Evan Luo's reef tank from Australia. That wasn't just about the tank, it also was the vibe of him and me actually met like an hour before we started filming that video, and he just had a really unique tank. So let me get back to a little bit, just like a deep question, the favorite and worst trends. All right, so talking about my favorite trends is automatic filter rolls. I really do appreciate reefers getting really analytical about their tanks, but you also need to be asking the right question. And for sure, the worst trend is people putting controllers on stuff that don't need to be controlled at all. And it's one thing to approach the reef aquarium hobby and know that you're a gadgeteer and you just want all the bells and whistles and toys, but don't claim to be a reefer when it looks like shit. Excuse mon français. I mean, you just see so many of these reef tank builds How about another tank? Let's take a look at another tank now. You see all these reef tank builds where like guys go crazy, and it's always men, go crazy, just overbuilding, overanalyzing, overthinking everything. Like I saw this one channel, and I'm not naming names or anything. I saw this one channel where this guy must have had like 3 or 4 unions from his return pump to the tank. I'm getting there. And it was connected to like a Vectra, which already has a built-in union. And I'm thinking to myself, that is so much points of failure before you build out the tank. And so just people over gadgeting their tanks, overbuilding their tanks, and other people seeing that as like the way to go. Like that's how you're supposed to build a reef tank. There's a guy here locally, and he's got a whole giant room to support a 400-gallon tank. The 400-gallon tank, looks okay, but it's all about the room. And so he really knows what he's doing. This is the water box, kind of the end on. Kind of daylight right now. This is a lot of warm colors coming through. Alex Bugarin says he's been watching Reef Builders since 2010. One of my favorite channels, hands down. Thank you, buddy, man. So like I said, we're just having a casual 100K Ask Me Anything. Reef Passion says, am I going to try organic method on the studio based on calcium formate? What do you say, Windsor? Yeah, calcium formate. Like I don't know. That would be a solution looking for a problem. I don't have a problem with my calc water, with my calcium reactor, with my regular dosing, and so that's just not appealing to me. Again, I'm happy to see what someone else has to say. Are you still sending me questions?
I'm on here. So, what coral that you have that you think requires?
Ooh, that's a good question. Corals that I don't have. Reefing. Sorry, the chat just like really blew up, so I was actually just kind of looking around. I'm gonna scroll up a little bit, see if I can find some of my friends. I want to thank everybody once again. I'm gonna say this like every 5 to 10 minutes. I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. I'm just gonna bounce around and kind of show you the tank. I know it's like not the highest quality video or audio, but I think you can hear me. So some of the corals that I'm looking to add. So I'm really trying to build, for no other reason that I like all corals. I'm trying to get multiple representatives of like every major group of corals. So not like every acro, but most acro types. But I actually have a list in Apple Notes. Let's see. I'm still looking for some. I have 2 orange tongue corals, so I wanted 1 or 2 more. I'm gonna just go with the fungids. What else? Oh, Halomitra. Halomitra is like a multi-mouth kind of fungi-looking thing that's always kind of yellow, with purple rim and white mouths. Another one, which is weird, is like super common, Euphyllia slipper coral. That used to be an everyday coral, and I'm like, I don't know where to find it anymore. It's always kind of grayish, greenish, brownish, lots of tentacles, and it's all about that flowiness, kind of like a galaxia. But yeah, some of the old timers here, I'm sure you guys remember slipper corals. That was like one of the first corals you learned the name of. Let's see, what else is on my list? I'm looking for a couple like oddball branching Leptoceras, and there's Leptoceras papyracea, which is really thin, and then Leptoceras gardneri. And I've learned a lot more about keeping all corals by trying to keep all corals. So we recently set up a tank that I'll show you here in a bit that I think is going to knock your socks off. It's the Chalice Palace and the Shroom Room. Just Obi? Okay, so Just Obi says, congratulations on 100K. Hoping you can help me with something. I'm new to the hobby and still heard high phosphates will limit coral growth. What levels would this be at? I don't have a skimmer. To be honest, I don't think a typical reef aquarium setup will actually experience the kind of phosphates that will limit coral growth. That's not the current nutrient climate of of reef aquariums these days. Does that make sense? So I wouldn't really worry about that too much. If you have super high phosphates, I think Rich Ross is the guy who's been really proud of holding his phosphates like above 1, above 1 ppm or up to 2 ppm. And I've heard some other people talk about it, but that's just not going to be a limiting factor for growth. All right, so we got another good question. How long have those large colonies been growing? Man, they're all over the place. Because the thing is, like, some of these are coral strains that I've had for a decade, but I cut them down, make new pieces. But I would say there's no coral colony here that is more than 3 years old at best. I think that's about right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Yeah, that yellow belly on the blue tang is dope. That yellow belly blue tang on the tank before, that was a rescue. I got it for $75. He lived in a 24-gallon BioCube for like 3 years before I got him. So he's got like a little bit of blemish. But yeah, he's doing a lot better now, just looking super happy and healthy and thriving.
Dayton, and then let's go to Alan.
All right. Dayton Zingman says, I'm about to set up a 65-gallon SPS tank. Do you think a calc reactor will be able to keep up with demand for most of the tank life? I start all my tanks with a calcium reactor. And that question is a yes, a no, and a maybe, right? If you fill it up with LPS corals or shrooms and zoanthids, you don't even need a calc reactor, right? As you started out, for sure, some small frags, as they start growing, the calc reactor will be enough. It really depends on your evaporation rate. And when your coral tanks become as packed as these are, definitely not. But I start all my tanks kind of a tiered method. I do calc reactor, and then I do dosing, and then when the tank really starts, making huge demands where you're adding up to 2 liters a week of any one component, then you add a calcium reactor to take up about 80-90% of your dosing, but you keep the dosing for your fine adjustments, right? So you can just kind of set your calcium reactor and forget it, and it's going to take care of 80-90%. Danny's Aquariums, maybe the phone cameraographer. Yeah. No. So I'm going to look at some questions here in the chat. Have I witnessed mollies nip at LPS? Yeah. They'll kiss LPS, but they do not have the dentition to make a problem. Does that make sense? They don't have the kind of mouth to graze that stuff. They can only graze like the lightest of algae anyway. Here's a good question. Brian Cobb says, have I seen or tried the new MRC filter roller? I have not, but I take some credit for the existence of that machine because I was bugging Raj for like years to make one because I kept telling him like everything else is a toy. And then he sneakily put it out there, and I'm actually going to be visiting him right before the Aquatic Expo in Atlanta. So that'll be my first time, hopefully. Hopefully Raj will take me to a tank that's running it, or at least check out the factory. And I mean, that's really for commercial applications, right? A single filter roll is like 300 feet long and costs $100, but depending if you have a 500-gallon plus tank with really dirty fish or even a bigger tank, you might replace that roll once or twice a year. So, definitely take a look at the price of the filter roll, of the replacement filter, and realize that if that's too much for you, you're not in that bracket. It really is one of those things like, if you have to ask if you can afford it, then that's not the kind of reef tank that you're keeping. YouTube Reefer caught the side of my like the personal edition Japanese Reef Builders logo. Coral, is that Reefum? Oh, he was asking about corals I would like to acquire. You know what? Let me just pull up my notes because I'm sure I'm missing some. I think I'm doing a lot better these days. So the Herpalissa, the Halomitra, branching Galaxia. Like I have 2 or 3 frags of Reefing Galaxia. Oh, and by the way, I should mention like this live stuff is hard, and super props to Keith at Reef Bum. I probably catch like every one of his videos, maybe not live, and he's got some great guests, and I gave him some tips on some new guests that he could kind of bring in to spice things up. So definitely, if you don't know Reef Bum, go subscribe to his channel. Check out Rapping with Reef Bum. That is some of the most high quality programming in the reef aquarium world today. Yeah. So I have some branching Galaxia. I think it's branching, but it doesn't. Galaxia is a weird animal because it doesn't branch like other corals, right? So it's branching in all directions, but it's all the branches so close together it just looks like a bush. So either way, like branching Galaxia is on my list. I will always get like almost every deep water acro I can come across. So Acropora pichoni is really high on my list. That's one that's like almost flat and fused like an F-low, but it's a naked acro, with just a couple little branches coming up. Pachyceras is one of the most common corals in the freaking world. I had to go to the public aquarium to see some a couple days ago, and it's never going to win any beauty pageants, but Pachyceras, that's a really, really good one. Astralogyra, the branching moon coral, and kind of got a hankering. I've been thinking about some really cool nano pico reef concepts, and I really think I'd like to do a 1-2 gallon tank with some walking dendros and a couple random sand gobies. I just found this really awesome paper that took some x-rays of the walking dendro with peanut worms inside, with a bivalve inside, and yeah, I'm just really looking forward to actually making a really small tank and put a handful of those and just watch them walk around, because you guys know I don't like that in my tanks, so I'll set up a tank just for the walking dendros and see how many species I can get and how many strains I can get. Let me go back to where we're at. Let's see. That was Reef Bum. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. I think we're warming up. I'm having a little drinky poo. If you guys, here's something you can do for me and Mark. Mark and I are always on the lookout for good content. And if you can, besides like the obvious ones, right? If you know of any up and coming channels, post those in the chat and even maybe later in the comments. Big thanks to Reef Bum for the super chat. I think I answered his question. Keith, you have good questions. Just don't ask me about live rock or dry rock. And then, I don't know who this other one was. Oh, Mark Vanderwall. Oh, my goodness. So we will be, we'll be recording another reef therapy tomorrow. I think Mark's got some fun pseudo topic that we're going to get into, but I think we're going to freestyle it tomorrow without any specific plans. But I do want to talk a little bit about the future of the YouTube channel before I get into some more questions. Man, the studio is like so awesome, you guys. It is so great. Like, you seeing it one time, you can't even see it all. Like, even me, it takes me about a week to really go around and check out every tank and appreciate everything that is doing happy and healthy. One common question I always get is like, what's your favorite coral? And for years, it's been the one that is doing the best right now. Because there's some corals that are like, all right, and let's say PC Rainbow Acro. That's a super easy coral to grow, grows well for a ton of people, and it's awesome. It's beautiful. Getting it to that 99.9% health and clarity, that's another challenge. But then there's some staghorns might, kind of like stagnate on you, or the really thick, what I call corncob acros, like the Humulus or the Digitifera. They're just really demanding. Getting those to grow and stay like super duper duper blue or whatever color they came in, because they come from super shallow water. It's always nice when a coral starts blooming. So I am going to scoot you guys around to one of the newer tanks. Actually, take a drink, take a breath. But tell me some of the content that you guys are enjoying. The articles, video, podcasts. Mark and I are always on the lookout.
Someone asked, pretty much comes through the in sandbag.
What's that?
Diatoms and dinos.
Well, those are two different things, right? So somebody asked about diatoms and dinoflagellates. The diatoms pretty easily. If you don't have silicates, you don't have diatoms. I hope that's right. And then dinoflagellates, It's just so weird because it's starting to seem like a combination of lowering your temperature and raising your temperature and increasing your iron and increasing your nitrate is the way to fix dinoflagellates. Like, I don't think anyone's got like a silver bullet for this, but this is kind of what it's seeming like. Do you guys have any tips on dinoflagellates? I keep really clean tanks, and I've been dosing iron and nitrate for a while, so I haven't really encountered a really bad dinoflagellate bloom. What's that? Wrote that up about a year or so ago, I think, on Reef Builders, and 78, our tanks used to ride at 78 degrees. 78, 79, 81, that was what we did. That was normal because we were using, super intense lighting, and it's the advent of all this new technology that's made our tanks a little cooler. That's definitely not helping. I don't have an answer why, but nitrate, when it gets zero, somehow it's, oh God, how should I say this? The conditions, it's not that high nitrates kills your dinoflagellates, it's more that the conditions are better for like competing animals or for competing microbes when your nitrates are a little bit higher. So some things we want to do for the YouTube channel is you've seen a little bit of like some of our goniopora features, like a video really talking about everything. And I want to do a little bit more of that. Definitely want to do some videos showing like all the acans in this tank. This tank is almost all acans. You'll notice a few different corals in the mix. I'm trying to get this lined up just right. A few different corals in the mix, and really teaching people what acans actually are and why they're neat. And let me go grab a stick real quick, because there's a coral back there that I bought on eBay in 2009, and I had it forever and ever and ever. And I always thought it was a super aggressive lobo, and it was only in the last couple of years they redescribed it as an acan. So this is acan pachycepta here. Just leave that stick right there. I bought that, I want to say it was like $100 in like 2009, not long after the Australia opened up. And I bought it as a scolie, a very small, very orange, small scolie. And I've had that thing forever in so many tanks, and it taught me how aggressive acan pachycepta can be. So this is like a 40-something gallon tank. So one thing we definitely need to do is when the studio is newer, I think it was March 2019, and we'd only had a handful of months of like setting up the studio, we showed you all the tanks at once. And so it is definitely time to like show you another roundup of everything. Checking out for some questions here. So like I said, we're just doing kind of a casual 100K AMA. The Reef the Sea Forever says, I'm running at 77 right now. I would say that's firmly in the middle. There's a few people, especially like the service guys, the service side of the aquarium industry, they're dealing with like dozens of tanks at a time. So they're like really hardcore problem solvers. And they're the ones who are more likely to encounter problem after problem after problem and then use the solution over and over and over. So we got to figure out a way to bring the service guys a little bit more into the fold of the hobby, because they are the true aquarium professionals. I'm going to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. We have another question. Oh, Louis, I need you, buddy. I need some help. So this is for everyone. You guys are going to love this. We've been holding back on you guys. We have some incredible videos completed. So I've started flowing up the 400-gallon tank. I've got a Biz AFC 150 pump in there, which is freaking crazy. So we're going to start a series on the 400-gallon tank and showing off the acros pretty soon. But the big treat that we've been holding back for you guys for the 100K is our tour of, what's his name again? We visited Juan Gabriel Grajales. We visited his tank, and you guys are going to hear this first. We shot the video in English and in Spanish. I'm speaking English, Juan is speaking Spanish, and we need to subtitle what I'm saying in Spanish, and we need to subtitle what Juan's saying in English. And his tank is just, if you've seen a glimpse of it, oh my goodness. We didn't even catch it like at the peak of it, but this is going to be, if you guys have enjoyed, you know, Sanjay's video, Evan Luo's video, the Jason Fox video, and a few of our other, like, you know, kind of high profile, high performing videos, like Juan's tank is going to be like the next big video that we do. The video is done, yo. We just need to translate it. So Luis, we need to get together so I can come over to your restaurant or something and we can sit there and subtitle the videos, or you can come over to the studio. A little bit easier for us because that way we can edit it on the fly and put those captions in. So that video of Juan Gabriel Grajales' tank is like so cool. Man, visiting him is so awesome. He's just like a big kid my age. You walk in, he's got this big old reef tank. He's got like all his Marvel toys, like, you know, big old Marvel toys like from Avengers and stuff. And then he's got his DJing studio in the back, just a total man cave of an apartment. It was super duper cool. So LG Warrior says, I think you've seen that one. So yeah, you might have seen some clips maybe of like Juan's tank. I'll take this out here. But we really, you know, put the Reef Builders touch on that. So Luis, we need you to help translate. Let us know in the DM if we should come to you or you want to come to us. Because yeah, we need some professional, you know, we need not just an English speaker, but someone who's like familiar with the jargon in both English and in Spanish, if that makes sense. All right, we'll get together soon, Luis, and come taste some of that delicious food at your tank. So Luis roasts his tank. That was a really cool one because I filmed his first, the first time I filmed this tank was in 2007, you guys. And back then I wasn't really talking about the equipment and the gear and the corals. I was just kind of like panning over stuff and, you know, just evolve the style over time to kind of give you a little bit more information. Man, I wish I could really, if I could we put our effort into filming stuff here, not live streaming. So, you know, the corals look all right, but those corals that you're looking at outside of the webcam, they are so neon, so fluorescent. All right, let's scoot it over to the to the Euphyllia tank, and then you know, that might be a little interesting. And someone accused me recently not having any Neptune Systems gear, and to be honest, man, I've actually come to enjoy the Neptune Systems skylight quite a bit. So Emmanuel says he wants to see the mangrove tank. We're going tank by tank here for a little bit, and I might adjust the lighting. There we go. I might adjust the lighting so you can see it a little bit better. And oh yeah, it's kind of like daytime, so there's a lot of reflection. But so the Euphyllia tank, that's a cool one because I'm kind of thinking of upgrading that tank. I kind of want to make that tank maybe my deep water acro tank. And you guys know how many Euphyllias there are and how fast they grow. These guys are in a 3-foot, like 75-gallon tank, and they absolutely deserve like a 5 or 6 foot tank, right? I could literally take all these corals and spread them out, and it would fill a 6 foot tank. And I have overflow Euphyllias in other aquariums, right? This is not all my Euphyllias. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. I'm just, we're doing the casual 100K subscribers AMA. Which one? I can't hear you. The top one? Reef Fashion. What do you think about lowering the temperature to slow down coral's metabolism to combat ciliates that consume coral tissue? No, that's not the answer. This is the tank where we had ciliate issues. I think they're ciliates anyway. I put them under a microscope and they were kind of moving like that. But lower temperature, that's not a fix. I would say the only kind of approved style treatment has been ChemiClean. And that's the first treatment that we're starting with, but I don't know that it's going to be like the best forever. Does that make sense? But I've actually been, what's the word? Not consulting, but I've just been sharing my tips for treating some of the ciliate outbreaks I saw in this Euphyllia tank with ChemiClean. So I shut the tank off from the system. The first time I actually put a power filter on there and a lot of air stones, and whatever was going on stopped in its tracks. It's really important that you dose the volume of water, not the volume of the tank. So you got to have a feel for how much volume you have. Not about the overdose, but also you can't aerate too much while you're dosing all this stuff or any kind of antibiotic. So ChemiClean is like the first antibiotic that we've started experimenting with. And I say we in the collective we because myself, Meckley, Sprung, Vincent Chalias, we're all kind of experimenting with treating kind of ciliate coral diseases, but I don't think cold temperature is going to be the answer, honestly. But if you want to message me privately, I can probably give you a little bit more details. I think that those treatments are going to become a little bit more known and mainstream in the near future. So I'm just going to say hi. Thanks, Remy, and Juan Carlos, and Danny's Reef, and Jay Woo for tuning in. We're having a casual AMA, about 100,000 subs. Guys are going to like this. I wish the reflection would go away right now. We didn't wipe down the tanks today. We wiped them down yesterday. So this is a Euphyllia tank. You can see I have enough, but they're like almost all on top of each other. Algae Warrior asks, and I think I want to acknowledge Algae Warrior for being one of our oldest and most consistent commenters, because I remember the name. You've been posting and commenting a lot, so I want to thank you very much. So he asked, what happened to the Beverly Hills tank? That was one of the first videos he watched. I'm not sure. If you've been reefing in here for like 10, 15 years, you'll see these people come flying out the gate and with big dreams and big ambitions and throw a lot of money at their tanks, and then they burn out because it wasn't a real organic passion for the hobby. It was more, kind of a rich guy flex. And I'm not saying that that's what happened to the Beverly Hills tank, but there was just a little bit too much going on almost all the time. And I believe that tank is now at Unique Corals. Not the content, but the overall setup. Nelson says, Illumagic is underrated, unfortunately, and I totally agree. Illumagic has, definitely carved out their own path. They got some really unique lights, and they got this new thing with like these modular pucks or something, where you can take their existing clusters that went into the Illumagic Blaze Mini and the Blaze X, and then that fits into just like a small standalone fixtures. And then, oh man, I need to catch up with those guys and see what all that's about. But yeah, Illumagic, you see some tanks in Australia or Asia, they really, really do the job. Oh, okay, cool. So Queen City Reef and more says, hey Jake, I'd like to hear more on a comment you said with Oso Reef in Mexico about using ChemiClean on your tank once a year. That kind of leads up into the question about treating ciliates. So give me a second. I need to catch my breath. I've been talking nonstop for a while. I'll take a sip. Raise your glass, you guys. If you have a glass, raise your glass. And, it's just nice that the community is big enough to support a channel with 100,000 subscribers. I mean, if you sit back and think about 100,000 people, I know that's peanuts in YouTube land, but 100,000 people said, hey, I want to see more of this content. Yeah, that's kind of a big deal. So I'm going to take a sip. So when I was talking to Oso Reef, shout out to those guys. When I started treating with the ciliates, the first time or what I believe suspect was ciliates, the first time I did it, I was super gun shy and just, really apprehensive about what was going to happen to the tank, this and that. And a couple corals really, really suffered. But I didn't lose anything. The infection stopped in its tracks, and about a week to 2 weeks later, the only way that you could tell that I had dosed ChemiClean is that even the corals that were doing well were puffy, about like 10 to 20% larger. Like, I just couldn't believe it. And so now, I think, if there's some complex biology going on in our aquariums, it would take like 100,000 theses to answer all the questions. So Mark really has a curiosity for the questions that aren't being asked, or what are some of the answers, the questions that we could answer if we had a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of resources. And so, I don't know why my corals just look a little puffier, like 10 to 20% better after I dose with ChemiClean. I just suspect it's a bacterial balance or a bacterial imbalance, and bubble corals, leather corals, all the Euphyllias, they just looked, again, just like 10 to 20% better. And that could be just due to my tank, because I have, 500 different strains and 600 gallons of water. But it worked for me, and so that is something I will do, and it has nothing to do with red slime algae and just general health and well-being. Let me say hi to some folks. Thanks to Momal, thanks to Reef and Dive, Corey Bates, Ryan Smithers, May Jornales, Chris C, Insane Reefer, Emmanuel D, and Nelson. I think we're going to crack out some champagne. You might hear the pop here in a little bit. We have another question. I'm a question answering machine here. And which one was it?
Yeah. Just keep talking. Oh, sorry.
The top one?
Yep.
Planet 3D. Do you think new reefers should complete a fundamentals course, a mini driver's test? I hadn't really thought of it that way, but I don't think it should be required or anything, but definitely, do you guys know how much this equipment costs? You know how much the glass costs, how much the corals cost? What is $50 for, 2 or 3 lessons of learning the fundamentals, right? And a few years ago, I was really harping on just salinity because everybody was using specific gravity instead of salinity for their tanks. And a year or two after that, I was really focused on pH. And these are the fundamentals that, some of the other content creators are treating like it's some kind of advanced know-how, even though the scientists have been saying the ocean is acidifying and killing all the corals for like 20 years. So, what is fundamentals? I don't know. I don't really know the answer to that question. But definitely some of the older books, probably mid-90s was probably like the golden age for aquarium books. I think those, except for like controllers, automatic water testers, and LED lighting, that the fundamentals are all there, man. And you can pick up all those legacy reef books for $2, $3, $5, $10. I mean, $50, and you get every book that we all grew up with. You know what I'm saying? Oh, okay. Mark says his headphones died. I hope he meant his headphones died, not mine. Luis says, all right, Luis, you need to come over, man. Let's talk some shop. I guess if you're using Illumagic and you're talking about the pucks, I actually have a bunch of different Illumagic pucks. Because when I asked for a couple, they just sent me like the whole catalog. So I might have some pucks for you. So we're going to crack open a little bit of champagne because I actually thought it would take this long. I thought it would take about this long. Let me know if you can hear the champagne pop. Yay! And this is as much a celebration of the community that we built. And like I said earlier on, I would rather have 100 really engaged really passionate reefers watch my content than, get a million views every single time from people who are just kind of passing by. Does that make sense? And I think that's what resonated with a lot of people about reef stock. When you get the right people together, the right ideas start flowing, the right conversations start happening, and then, like Stan Thine, he was one of the few VIPs, not an attendant, I'll say that. He was missed, as well as Mark and Keith. But like Stan, he talked about fundamentals yesterday on a video about ozone, and it was so good. Cheers, everybody. Enjoying a little champagne. And it was so good, and I didn't hear anything that I didn't factually know. But hearing the way Fan approached different things and remixing, it just gets the juices flowing, So that's why Mark and I, we consume a lot of content, because it gets your juices flowing. There's almost no new ideas, right? Ozone is one of the oldest ways to treat water. So is carbon dosing. LED lighting is also, pretty new. But almost every idea, it just kind of comes back around, and they die out, and then they come back around. So if you have any questions about reefing right now, or the channel, the future, the studio, now is a good time to at me while we're live and get a little drink on. Sam, I always had respect for him, man, and he's really kind of hitting a stride as a creator, I think, in the last couple of years, and I love hearing his take on stuff and how he approaches different subjects. There's a lot of echo chamber happening, you guys. You know this. There's a lot of echoing going on, people talking about the same thing in a different way, or they just read this on that forum, and they run to another forum acting like they're all smart or enlightened or something. And you can tell that Stan has the fundamentals of knowledge, and he's applying them on a larger scale with really creative ideas. So, Stan, if you hear this now or later, really appreciate you, brother. May Jornales. Tanks absolutely rock. Thank you for sharing your journey. Congrats on 100K. All right, I'll just put this out there once and for all. I believe the true weeping willow is no longer with us. I had shared a couple frags with folks. I had some teething issues at the studio when I first moved in and started taking care of stuff for business here. And I believe that I don't have a piece. Every now and then I'll find like a shred of funky leather coral in the corner or in a rubble bin, and I'm like, could that be maybe? But I don't have it. But I'm not sure, not currently. And then the people who had some frags, they have fallen off, of keeping the weeping willow. So currently, as it stands, the original weeping willow leather coral, I don't know who would have it. Maybe one day somebody from like the deep past will come up and be like, hey, do you remember this leather coral? But I'll keep my eye out for the next one. I have what I call a toxic willow, which is green, and it looks like every bit as much as the weeping willow, especially the way the polyps move. Yeah, that one's freaking crazy. But the OG willow. What's that now? I don't know if you want it. So that's the saga, the weeping willow. But yeah, here's the funny thing about the weeping willow, man. Reef Builders wasn't nearly as big. The reefing hobby wasn't nearly as big in 2013 as it is now. And I remember thinking to myself, no one is ever going to care about this story about a brown leather coral. No one. Absolutely no one. I'm just showing off a coral that I really, really like and I've had forever. And over the years, it just gained its own cult following, and then people started putting weeping willow on other corals and other corals that had nothing in common with the weeping willow, and just really kind of cash grabbing, if that makes sense, cash grabbing for the weeping willow. And at first I was mad that people were putting the willow name on corals that had nothing in common. Remy is the only person at Bahama Llama that I explicitly was like, hey man, run with it, have fun. I'm just glad that you appreciate a brown mother coral. So I said, like, I was mad to see like all these brown, not weeping sarcophytans being called willows. And then, I mean, it took me a few months, maybe a year, to kind of like get over it. And they're like, you know what? My original mission to get people to care about brown sarcophytans was worked beyond my wildest dreams. So I'll take that notch in my belt for popularizing brown leather corals. Okay, so Emmanuel D says, what is that yellow acro right in the middle of the tank? That is not an acro. That is a branching Samacora. I actually have two orange branching Samacoras. One is orange-orange. Oh yeah, that might help. One is orange-orange, and then that one is like kind of neon orange, so just like a touch of green. And I think it was when I was in Mexico, I saw one that was like yellow. So imagine the intersection of neon orange and neon green. And I really wanted to take it home, but it was in another country. So that's a one key. So I'll add to my list of corals I'm looking for is a yellow branching Samacora. You think I'm tripping, right? There's some shade of green or some shade of orange. This thing was so yellow. I will find it. So yeah, that is a Samacora. I have, so Brymac asked if I have any purple monster in the studio. I have the most pathetic, small, little, barely, sort of encrusted frag of purple monster from the 2015 expedition with Tim Kelly. And it's surrounding by like happy, healthy, thriving, fast-growing corals, and it just sits there and look at me. There's no active tips on it. It's got kind of like two nubs, and it is what it is. I'm trying to remember who else has some purple monster in the works for me. Oh yeah, I think Keith is working on some purple monster. I mean, you guys know it grows glacially slow, and then a local reefer is also working on some as well. Thanks to Critical Acclaim for meeting us at Reef Stock. Really fired up my reefing mind, loving the live stream. So yeah, that's the whole point with the content, the articles, the stories, the podcast, and the conference. It's just really to inspire and get those juices flowing and just energize people about the reef aquarium hobby. I think I'm going to take a few more questions on the 100K AMA. My voice is starting to get a little hoarse from talking nonstop. It's kind of hard to... It's a lot easier doing this with Mark, I'll tell you what, man, because we get a chance to catch our breath, and it's not live, so we can really take our time, and we can put some edits in if we need to. So definitely shouts out to the guys who do this all the time. Do you have any other lingering questions? I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank all the commenters who've been commenting all this time with names that I really remember for supporting the channel. Let's see. Insane Reaper says, recommendations on lighting for maximum acro growth, higher lights for more spread or lower for more par? More lights for more spread. Just stop thinking about par. Like, this is one of those reasons I actually kind of rail against par meters. If people take it as a tool and they think that, all right, this is the temperature of my soup, so my soup is going to cook right. And it's just not like that. And you don't even need a par meter to know where you're lighting up a three-dimensional coral well enough. Just look for shadows. Just look for shadows on the coral, right? You'll probably get much better, you'll certainly get much better coral growth, especially with acros. Using 4 cheap lights, lighting up a coral from all angles, basically utilizing every surface of the light gathering engine at 100 micromoles than you will with a single strong light source pointing down and reaching a peak of 400 micromoles. Like, we really need to deprogram ourselves about maximum par values. It's not about spread, of like a light spreading light outwards. It's more about shining that light on every part of the coral. Salt Creek TV says, what was the first coral you hand collected and put in your tank? What was the first? What was the first? Well, it would have been the Solomon corals, and those kind of came in a batch. So the Immortal Tort that I collected with Tim Kelly, the Palau Estrella, a few Chalice corals. I'll just give it up to the Immortal Tort because it was, the most iconic one from that batch. And I have, I'm looking right now, I've got 1, 2, 3, 8. I got like 8 colonies. I'm always just trying to find new homes for frags. All right, so here's a good one. Ryan Sweat. Hey, Jake, I recently heard about a few people having success with fragging scollies. What are your thoughts? Fragging scollies is not different than mutilation. No one that doesn't have a ready supply of wild scollies and fresh seawater where they don't have to worry about anything, nobody is fragging scollies. It's an experiment you can do if you want to look at a misshapen scolie for like a year or two. And you can't really compare to a coastal farm using natural seawater, fresh wild corals that are as healthy as they can be, and a range of like natural sunlight. It's just not even close. Can you do it? Sure. But I don't think that is the thing. In the long term, we're definitely going to be breeding corals. Like that's going to be a much better avenue. Although it will take a long time to grow those guys out. All right, so how about one more tank to show you guys. I got to show you guys my Chalice palace, and you'll kind of see a little bit of the studio. Oh no, Chalice palace is where it's at. Give you 1 second to set this back up again. But yeah, this thing has rekindled my love for Chalice corals lately. I finally found a spot with all blue, with kind of light colored. I have to adjust everything real quick. Give me a second, but once you see it, I think you'll agree this is the tank to look at. I want to thank everybody once again tuning out for helping us reach 100,000 subscribers. It's been fun. It's been a fun challenge to just share the Reef Aquarium hobby in a particular way. And here in a moment, we should be lining up. A little choppy. Come on, you could do it. You could do it. Just a couple seconds. I'll answer your questions. Did you scroll up, Windsor? Yeah. All right. So this is the Chalice Palace on the right. It's filled with mostly Euphyllia, not so much Oxypora. So Euphyllia, Mycelium, and some Pectinia. And this thing's always seems like it's pointed down way more than it is. So GP says, listening to your older podcast about Instagram tanks and how we should not compare to them. That applies to life, yeah, for sure. Everything is like super curated, and I know that myself and a handful of other content creators are making a concerted effort to show the blemishes, to show the algae, to show the red slime, and not present our tanks like they're perfect little paradises. Naturally, that's what we all did when we started creating content. And then eventually you're like, hey, this is actually not real. This is not real life. And so we need to do a little bit better, because when people only see perfectly curated tanks, and then they compare it to their tank, that is not the best. Yes, Ryan Sweat, the mode aquariums rack. I realized that I didn't really have that many more fish to quarantine. I had a pretty good population, and I was kind of overflowing with corals. So the top row is all anemones, the middle row is kind of all LPS and medium-like corals, and the bottom row is Chalice corals on the right. That's the Chalice Palace. and shrooms, coralomorphs, discosomas and recordias and redactus. There's a few things mixed in. That's the shroom room. So here's a fun story. Eric L. asks, how have my impressions of this Neptune sky has changed? I love the light that it produces. I absolutely love the light that it produces. I'm only using it on Euphyllia right now, so I'm not really gone beyond the two channels of like the blue channel and like the violet channel. It's got a good spread, but for what it is, and you've seen all these prices increase, it's just, it doesn't hold up to 2 XR15. You know, 2 XR15 radions are about the same price as one Neptune sky. I mean, I don't know anymore with the price hike. So it's just not an awesome value, you know? If you get that light, if you don't really care about the money, you're probably going to get a good spread. But it's because it's a big fixture, if you have a 4-foot tank, it doesn't make sense to get 2 skies, you know? So like that light shines at like a 3-foot tank and then a 5 and 6 and larger aquarium. But I'll tell you a funny story. I dropped mine in the tank. Yep, I'm not gonna say how I dropped it in the tank, but it almost went all the way under while it was lit up. And first thing I did is I unplugged it, pulled it out, took it all apart, washed it all off, rinsed it down with some auto water, let it dry overnight, and the next morning I put it all back together, expecting to see some flickering, and nothing. So far, it's been a few months since that happened. I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 months since it happened. So, you know, I definitely had some reservations about how well it's going to be able to hold up to moisture. But the fact that it was able to go for a swim, you know, obviously I've repaired it and cleaned it all off before running it all the time. That gives me a little bit more confidence in its durability. Thanks again to everybody for tuning in. I want to thank Ghetto809 for the $4.99 super chat. And do you know the name of the coral that looks like green flamer but is blue instead? I mean, I have a staghorn that pretty much tracks that description. It's not quite as blue as a green flamer is green. I don't think it went by the blue slimer name, though. I bought mine as a cheapo browned out frag. You could just barely see the blue in it. It grows really, really fast. But, man, there's a wide range of staghorns available to reefers, or there used to be, and hopefully we'll see more in the future. And I don't sell equipment of any kind. I do rehome lightly used equipment from time to time, just, you know, the right person. All right, I'm running a little bit out of breath. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We got a lot of great videos coming up. I hope this was a nice casual reefing with you guys. I want to thank everybody so much for helping us get to 100,000 subscribers. And, you know, for us it was less of a milestone than more just a different chapter, right? So we have a lot of great stuff planned. We've been training ourselves to get great reef tanks, to get better video skills, audio skills, editing process, and you know, got to thank the sponsors. Brightwell Worldwide was on board for a long time for most of this journey. You know, recently was replaced by Top Shelf Aquatics and Ecotech Marine. You know, they really help us with the tone of our content. I can't stress that enough. They're not just paying us the bills, you know, some of the bills. They're really just giving us the freedom to be creative and artists and aquarists. All right, so I'm gonna stop talking now. I am basically out of voice, and I got a low battery on my MacBook Pro. I got like 9 minutes left, so Mark and I are going to be recording a reef therapy tomorrow night. That'll be out on Thursday, and we'll see you guys soon on the interwebs. Good night, everybody.